Good evening and welcome to this week's Millfield Band Fellowship. This evening our music comes from Andrew Maycock with his guitar, and our preacher is Stuart Bulmer. Now Stuart is the brother of Gwen and Anne and used to play euphonium in Millfield Band. He now lives down south and attends a Boscombe corps, so we look forward to what both of these are going to bring us. But before that, it's time for our quiz, so pens and paper at the ready. So how is the quiz going to work? Well, this evening every question is going to be in the format of which of these did, does or is this. And it's multiple choice. You'll have three options. One option will of course be the correct answer, and for that you will score a point. There'll be an option 2 which is the incorrect answer. So that is a one of these, but it's not the one of these that did, does or is the this in the question. And option 3 will be an impossible answer. It's not a one of these, and therefore it cannot possibly be the one of these that did, does or is the this. Let's have a quick look at an example. Which former Millfield corps officer plays horn? Is it A. Steve Naylor, B. Eddie Arnold or C. Brian Johnson? Of course, Eddie Arnold is the correct answer and he would score you a point. Steve Naylor is a former Millfield CO but doesn't play horn, and so he would score 0 points. Brian Johnson is not a former Millfield CO and therefore can't possibly be the former Millfield CO who plays horn, and so if you answered Brian you would lose a point. The quiz is general knowledge and of 10 questions, so if you're ready to begin, let's go. Question 1. In Saving Private Ryan, which US state is James Francis Ryan from? Is it A. Iowa, B. Minnesota or C. Alberta? Now if you're guessing, be careful, because if you get the answer that is not a US state, it would of course lose you a mark. Question 2. Who was the first British Formula 1 driver to win the World Championship? A. Sir Stirling Moss, B. Alan Jones or C. Mike Hawthorne? Question 3. In which Old Testament book would you find the story of Josiah? Is it A. in Titus, B. in Esther or C. in 2 Kings? Question 4. Joe Biden will probably be the 46th president, but which of these founding fathers was the first? Was it A. Thomas Jefferson, B. George Washington or C. Abraham Lincoln? Question 5. Which of these capital cities is the capital of Malaysia? A. Putrajaya, B. Kuala Lumpur or C. Manila? Now if you recognise the picture, that could be a hint or it could not be a hint. Who knows? Question 6. Swan Lake was written by which of these Russian Soviet composers? A. Tchaikovsky, B. Shostakovich or C. Schoenberg? Question 7. Your Smiling Face is a song by which American singer-songwriter? A. Van Morrison, B. Randy Newman or C. James Taylor? Question 8. In which English county is Cirencester? Is it A. in Gloucestershire, B. in Cotswolds or C. in Somerset? Which English county? Question 9. John Williams has won 5 Oscars, but which of his movies won one of them? A. Gladiator, B. Harry Potter, or C. Jaws? Question 10. And what better way to finish than with a question on cows? Which of these cows make up 90% of the cows in the UK? A. Aberdeen Angus, B. Holstein Friesian, or C. Cheviot? And that is the end of our quiz. So grab yourself a cuppa and make yourself comfortable as we listen to the music from Andrew, followed by the thought that Stuart has prepared for us.
Well, good evening. The solo spotlight tonight is a little bit different, and I hope it provides you with some time to reflect. As we're just coming out of what will be, for many, the most unusual time of remembrance, I've purposely performed a favourite tune of mine, The Minstrel Boy, which is an Irish folk song used every Remembrance Sunday at the Cenotaph in London. However, that's where the link sort of ends, and I'm certain that we, as a band and as a fellowship, are missing each other. I know that I am missing the camaraderie, the simple act of playing together and worshipping together. So yes, you'll hear a performance of the music, but you'll also see pictures of our band fellowship. And as you watch, I invite you to bring these wonderful people to God. God bless you.
Good evening to all my friends up there in Millfield. There may be some of you who don't know who I am, and it would take a long time to go through my history. However, suffice to say, I was born and raised in Millfield. I married a Camsey, which were the other big family in the Corps. It was a bit like the Montagues and Capulets getting together, only with a better ending. I have two sisters at the Corps, Anne Foster and Gwen Thompson, and I was your deputy bandmaster on 2 occasions before leaving the fold to move south, first of all to Bedfordshire, and then on to the south coast near our family, and Linda and I, of course, soldier at Boscombe Corps. I would thank Ray for giving me this opportunity to do the devotions this evening. Incidentally, I'm also down to do the closing for my own band, so this will be a bit of a beta run for those who understand computer speak. Our assistant band sergeant is Lieutenant Colonel David Phillips, who is well known to many of you. And on the first practice of each year, the list goes up telling us the date and the topic for our closing. The topic I had been given is the future, the way ahead, and it was to be given at the end of November. So I was looking forward to 2020, for I'd planned a special birthday for Linda. I leave you to work that one out. Our golden wedding bash had been planned, along with a month's holiday in USA as part of the celebration. But as we know, life is such a roller coaster. And in 2020, whilst it sounded exciting, especially after a difficult 2019, which, as you know, had the sadness of losing Derek, then in March, I was called into the office of the Chief Executive Officer for the ILP, that's the Institution of Lighting Professionals, to be told that the part-time work that I did as a consultant was professional and education services, was going to be amalgamated with the technical services and other things as a full-time post in rugby. She did ask if I was interested in applying for the job, but that was the farthest thing from my mind at my age. I was wanting to wind down, not wind up. So in January, my thoughts for my closing would have been telling the guys that in 2020 there'd been a great improvement over 2019 and 2021 could be even better. I think we all appreciate that my statement would have been way out. For COVID certainly decimated ours and many other celebratory plans. However, this showed how small my faith can be. For as it turned out, thanks to Kevin and Christine, our children, Linda had a lovely birthday. And again, thanks to them and the grandchildren, we were able to celebrate our golden wedding. Now, as part of the band closing, I'm given a Bible verse, which in my case is from Psalm 119. Fortunately, it's only one verse, as many of those who are former Corps cadets will know it's the longest in the book. So verse 105 says, "Your word is a lamp for my feet and a light to my path." This is, I suppose, relevant in that we want to see our way in the darkness, then we shine our light source forwards. And it's very relevant to me professionally, as I'd just retired 46 years in the highway lighting profession. And one thing I did learn from my lighting career was that a lamp not only shows the way, but it also highlights the good things emanating from that path. We sometimes blindly sing, "I'm in his hands, whate'er the future holds." But I think this year, whilst we have seen that we should look to the future and never stop doing that, we must continue to follow God's guiding light. And we find this through prayer, following his word, and doing our duty with regard to our band service. As a Baptist minister, down here, uses the phrase, "Everything passes over God's desk." And then he continues by adding, "God is well aware of everything we face down here on earth and gives us just what we need." So what can I say about the future? Of course, we can make plans for the future, but without that guiding light that I mentioned in Psalm 119, we can't be sure of what direction that future will take. And whilst I was thinking of this evening, I thought it only right to contemplate on some of the immense catalogue of band music that we have. I'm sure that many of you will remember Linda's dad, Gordon Camsey Sr., or as he became known in Leighton Buzzard, Father Gordon, which I have to admit did cause some confusion to Salvationist visitors at times. His favourite piece of music was His Guardian Care, which I feel is very appropriate at this time. 3 of the tunes in the music are When Tempted Sore to Worry, I Trust Dear Lord in Thee. I don't think that's in the songbook now. God is With Us All the Time. And then there's a triumphant finale of the tune God is Still on the Throne, which when I had Leighton Buzzard Band, I insisted had to be played with a great sense of victory. Of course, there are a multitude of other pieces which you may find give you that sense of victory, and I leave it to you to think about that. So what of the future? We all need to follow that path our Father lights up for us, either individually or as a group of bandsmen and bandswomen, and in so doing, we may not only walk with God ourselves, but we may encourage someone else by our actions, and they will join us in our walk with Him. Let us not forget, Salvation Army bands are still relevant, even in these modern times. So we have a duty to perform. May we continue to carry out that duty in the name of our God. Now I'd like us to pray, just a short prayer. Heavenly Father, I pray for all my comrades in Millfield Band, and indeed all Salvationists and bandsmen and women. Whilst we are frustrated that we cannot carry out our duties as we would wish, we know that things will eventually come right, and we will again take up our full place in the community and beyond that. Bless each member of the band, and give its local officers strength and wisdom to see us through these difficult times. I look forward to being able to meet up with my friends in Millfield. But until that time, keep us faithful and true to the band and its mission. Amen.
So question 1 was in Saving Private Ryan. Which US state did James Francis Ryan come from? The answer was A, Iowa. So 1 mark for Iowa. B, Minnesota was actually where James Frederick Ryan in the movie came from. So it is a US state, but not the correct one. Alberta is a Canadian province. So I'm afraid if you put Alberta, you are on -1. Question 2. Who was the first British Formula 1 driver to win the World Championship? It was Mike Hawthorne. C. Sir Stirling Moss is a former British one driver but never won the World Championship and actually lost to Mike Hawthorne in that year by 1 point. Alan Jones is a World Championship winner but is Australian. So -1 point for Alan Jones, 1 point for Mike Hawthorne. Question 3. In which Old Testament book would you find the story of Josiah? It is 2 Kings. 2 Kings is the correct answer, 1 mark. Esther is an Old Testament book, but you would not find the story of Josiah in Esther. Titus is a New Testament book, so -1 if you got Titus. Joe Biden will be the 46th president, but which of the founding fathers was the first? It was George Washington. 1 mark for B, George Washington. Thomas Jefferson was a founding father and he was a president, but not the first one. Abraham Lincoln was of course a president, but was not a founding father. Question 5. And which of these capital cities is the capital of Malaysia? It is B, Kuala Lumpur, and the picture was correct there. C, Manila is the capital, but is the capital of the Philippines, whereas A, Port Raja, is in Malaysia, It is where the federal government of Malaysia operates from, but interestingly is not the capital. Question 6. Swan Lake was written by which of these Russian Soviet composers? The answer is A. Tchaikovsky. Shostakovich is a Russian Soviet composer but did not write Swan Lake, whereas Schoenberg is Austrian. Question 7. Your Smiling Face is a song by which American singer-songwriter? The answer is C. James Taylor. B. Randy Newman is an American singer-songwriter, whereas A. Van Morrison is British. Question 8. In which English county is Cirencester? The answer is A. Gloucestershire. It's also in the Cotswolds, but of course the Cotswolds is not a county. Question 9. And John Williams has won 5 Oscars, but which of his movies was one of them? The answer is C. Jaws. He won this alongside Oscars for Fiddler on the Roof, Star Wars, E.T. and Schindler's List. He also wrote music for Harry Potter, but did not write the music for Gladiator. That was written by Hans Zimmer. And finally, question 10. Which type of cow makes up 90% of the cows in the UK? It is B. Holstein Friesian. If you put C. Cheviot, I'm afraid that you chose a type of sheep. And that concludes our quiz. So, tot up your scores. I hope everyone managed to get at least a positive score. But either way, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your participation. Thanks again to Andrew and to Stuart for what they brought us. And of course to Ray and to Ross for their work, as they do every week, of putting this video together. And so it's just down to me now to say good night and God bless.